During my research and experience through life, I found many conspiracy theories are actually true. That, yes, masses are indeed controlled by the elite. The few still hold almost all the power, as was the case status quo in the past, and we only have an illusion of free will. Almost every aspect of our life is influenced from outside. The conspiracy theories about secret societies are all true. Perhaps not in the way we had imagined when we were 14 years old, but their effect is all the same. Many times, even people in those societies do not know what they are a part of. It is just the way this world works, more or less. I think I should have saved the rant for another video. Now, let's just focus on today's video. It is well documented that the CIA played a pivotal role in shaping mid-20th century culture. They didn't just observe societal movements, they actively molded them. The modern art movement, for instance, was astroturfed with CIA funding, pushing an American cultural agenda against the Soviet Union. The early feminist movement was also influenced, with Gloria Steinem, one of its most powerful figures, later revealed to have CIA ties. Even Margaret Mead, the leading anthropologist of her time, promoted pseudoscientific ideas that were quietly backed by intelligence agencies. Beyond cultural influence, the CIA controlled the media narrative through Operation Mockingbird, a program that ensured mainstream news outlets aligned with their interest when only 3 major stations existed. They experimented with LSD, allegedly distributed crack in inner-city neighborhoods, and facilitated the movement of cocaine through Central America. These revelations expose a pattern of manipulation that extends far beyond what was once considered speculation. This understanding connects directly to a larger shift that has taken place over the past decade. When this channel first launched in 2015, conspiracy theorists were dismissed as lunatics, mocked, ridiculed, and written off as delusional. Despite this, I was always fascinated by conspiracy theories. Early on, I made 2 videos covering 10 conspiracy theories that, against all odds, turned out to be true. Fast forward to 2025, and the landscape has changed dramatically. What was once labeled fringe has now entered the mainstream. In fact, today, more people believe in conspiracy theories than those who don't, a shift few could have predicted a decade ago. A major driver of this change has been the internet. Independent platforms and influential voices like Joe Rogan have brought suppressed information to the forefront, exposing historical truths that were once dismissed. We know now, for example, that MK Ultra, Paperclip, and many others weren't just wild theories, they were real. The growing accessibility of information, combined with a deepening distrust in government institutions, has ushered in a new era of skepticism. And let's be honest, history has given people plenty of reasons to question official narratives. One of the most striking revelations is that the CIA spent decades researching the spirit world during the Cold War. Their interest wasn't based on belief in the supernatural, but on the fear that the Soviets were investigating the same phenomena. The last thing they wanted was for their enemies to gain a strategic advantage in areas beyond conventional understanding. Project Gateway. For decades, the idea that governments researched the supernatural was dismissed as pure conspiracy. But recently, declassified documents revealed something astonishing. The CIA spent years studying consciousness, out-of-body experiences, and contact with non-physical entities. This research, known as Project Gateway, was quietly released to the public in 2016. It was an effort to understand human consciousness on a deeper level, and what they found if true, could completely reshape our understanding of reality. This isn't science fiction. This is real, documented government research. And today, we're going to break it all down. The origins of Project Gateway. The story begins during the Cold War, when the US and the Soviet Union were locked in a relentless battle for global dominance. Intelligence agencies were desperate to gain an edge, whether through advanced weaponry, psychological manipulation, or even paranormal abilities. The US government became aware that the Soviets were conducting experiments on extrasensory perception, remote viewing, and altered states of consciousness. Not wanting to fall behind, the CIA launched its own top-secret program to explore the limits of human consciousness. What they discovered shocked even the scientists working on the project. Through a combination of sound frequencies, meditation techniques, and hypnosis, participants in Project Gateway reported experiences that defied the laws of physics. They described floating outside their bodies, traveling across vast cosmic landscapes, encountering intelligent, non-human entities. And these weren't just isolated cases. The results were consistent and repeatable. How Project Gateway worked. The Gateway process used a technique called hemisync, which played specific binaural beats to synchronize the two hemispheres of the brain. The goal? To induce heightened states of consciousness, allowing individuals to access dimensions of reality that exist beyond normal human perception. Participants reported experiencing astral projection, out-of-body experiences, visions of non-physical realms, encounters with intelligent entities, insights into the nature of existence, death, and the universe itself. And if this all sounds too wild to believe, consider this. The CIA's own documents state that these experiences were not hallucinations. They were scientifically measurable and repeatable under controlled conditions. According to their findings, the physical world we experience is just one layer of reality. Consciousness, they suggested, is not confined to the brain. It exists independently and can travel beyond space and time. The CIA's surprising conclusions. After years of research, the CIA came to some staggering conclusions. Reality is not what we think it is. The physical world is just a small fraction of what actually exists. Consciousness is the fundamental force shaping reality. The mind is capable of extraordinary things. People can access higher states of awareness and interact with non-physical realms. Human perception is limited only by our neurological conditioning. Other dimensions exist. These weren't just abstract ideas. The research suggested that these other realms were structured, real places inhabited by intelligent entities. Shockingly, these findings aligned with ancient spiritual traditions, which have long described higher planes of existence, life beyond death, and the untapped potential of human consciousness. But what makes Project Gateway truly remarkable is that these revelations didn't come from mystics or religious figures. They came from scientists, military personnel, and intelligence operatives. Why haven't we heard about this? If the implications of Project Gateway are so monumental, why isn't it common knowledge? There are two likely reasons. 1. Distraction and suppression. The documents were declassified quietly in 2016, at a time when the world was distracted by political chaos and media-driven narratives. Major news outlets never gave the story serious attention. 2. The implications are too disruptive. If consciousness exists beyond the physical body, it destroys the materialist worldview that most governments and institutions rely on. A population aware of its own spiritual power is much harder to control. The entire structure of modern society, which thrives on keeping people disconnected and disempowered, could collapse. It's much easier to convince people that they are nothing more than biological machines, that their thoughts and emotions don't matter, and that death is the end. But what if none of that is true? The future of consciousness research. Since the release of the Project Gateway documents, interest in consciousness studies have been growing. Fields like quantum physics, neuroscience, and parapsychology are beginning to overlap, suggesting that a radical rethinking of reality is on the horizon. Some of the most groundbreaking ideas emerging include quantum consciousness, the idea that the mind operates at a quantum level, meaning it can exist outside the body. Non-local reality, the possibility that everything is connected through consciousness, as hinted at by quantum physics. The illusion of time, evidence suggesting that time is not linear and that consciousness can move through different timelines or dimensions. These ideas were once dismissed as pseudoscience. Today, they are serious topics of research. And if Project Gateway was right, our understanding of human potential is only just beginning. Final thoughts. What this means for you. So what does all of this mean for us? If the CIA's findings are accurate, then consciousness is far more powerful than we realize. We have access to other realms of existence. Life and death are not what we've been taught. The implications are staggering, but the biggest takeaway is this: reality is not what it seems. Throughout history, those who questioned the nature of existence, whether philosophers, spiritual leaders, or scientists, were often dismissed, ridiculed, or silenced. But as we continue to explore the mysteries of the mind and the universe, one thing becomes clear: we are only scratching the surface of what is possible. The world is far stranger than we've been led to believe, and the truth? It's waiting for those brave enough to seek it. The Bureaucracy Conspiracy. For decades, the idea that bureaucracy could destroy civilization was dismissed as alarmist paranoia. Figures like Ronald Reagan famously warned, "The most terrifying words in the English language are, 'I'm from the government and I'm here to help.'" At the time, many shrugged it off as ideological scaremongering. Bureaucracy, after all, was supposed to bring efficiency, fairness, and order. But fast forward to today, it's becoming impossible to ignore the growing, unchecked power of bureaucracy. Governments, unelected agencies, and sprawling corporate structures now control almost every aspect of our lives, from our financial transactions to the speech we're allowed to express. What was once labeled a far-right conspiracy theory is now openly debated in political and economic circles. And the most disturbing part? Many of history's sharpest thinkers saw this coming nearly a century ago. Let's dive deep into this. 1. How bureaucracy went from servant to master. Bureaucracy began as a simple tool for organizing societies. Ancient empires like China and Rome developed intricate administrative systems to manage vast populations. However, unlike today's bureaucratic nightmare, these systems were often kept in check by competing power structures, such as warrior elites, religious institutions, and free markets. However, by the 20th century, bureaucracy was no longer just a tool. It became the ruling class itself. The two world wars, the rise of central banking, and the rapid expansion of government control allowed unelected officials to gain unprecedented influence over daily life. The West, once a bastion of competition and innovation, began to suffocate under endless regulations, taxation, and control. Even political figures at the height of power warned about this. John F. Kennedy once stated, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." This quote eerily applies to our modern world, where regulatory overreach and administrative bloat have made true reform almost impossible. 2. The warning signs we ignored. What's truly disturbing is that many thinkers from the early to mid-20th century predicted this exact scenario. Among them were Oswald Spengler, who warned that civilizations undergo predictable life cycles and that excessive bureaucracy signals decline. Carroll Quigley, who wrote that the modern administrative state would eventually replace democracy with an entrenched technocratic elite. Ralph Linton and Arnold Toynbee, who predicted that the collapse of traditional religious and cultural structures would allow a soulless bureaucracy to consume civilization from within. All of these thinkers recognized a fundamental truth. Bureaucracies do not willingly shrink. Once they gain power, they expand relentlessly, creating self-sustaining systems that exist primarily to perpetuate themselves. 3. Bureaucracy and the death of innovation. Bureaucratic overreach has crushed innovation at every level. Regulations that favored corporate monopolies, small businesses struggle to comply with mountains of paperwork, while corporate giants use bureaucracy to prevent competition. Scientific stagnation. As predicted by Amory Duroy nearly a century ago, the prioritization of bureaucracy over creativity has slowed scientific breakthroughs. Centralization of power. Unelected officials and bureaucratic agencies now shape policies without direct democratic input. Institutions like the World Economic Forum, IMF, and World Health Organization wield enormous influence over global affairs with little transparency. This stagnation is not a side effect. It is an inevitable consequence of bureaucracy gaining too much control. History has shown that societies ruled by bureaucrats tend to fossilize, losing their ability to adapt, invent, and progress. 4. The deep state and the unaccountable power of bureaucrats. One of the most persistent conspiracy theories regarding bureaucracy is the existence of a deep state, an entrenched group of unelected officials who wield enormous influence behind the scenes. Critics used to dismiss this idea as paranoia. However, leaked documents and whistleblower accounts have shown that agencies like the FBI, CIA, and NSA actively influence political outcomes, censor public discourse, and operate with near total autonomy. The revolving door between government agencies and major corporations ensures that policies always favor the bureaucratic elite rather than the general public. Even former U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower warned about the rise of an unaccountable administrative class, calling it the military-industrial complex. Today, that warning has expanded far beyond the military. The entire Western world is now run by unaccountable bureaucrats. 5. The modern manifestation of bureaucratic tyranny. If bureaucracy has truly become a self-sustaining machine, what does that mean for the future? Mass surveillance and censorship. Bureaucracies like the NSA and corporate entities like Google, Facebook, and Twitter now actively monitor and control public discourse. Financial control through digital currencies. Governments and central banks push for a cashless society where every transaction can be tracked, taxed, and if necessary, blocked. Endless expansion of government programs. Welfare states continue to grow, funded by ever-increasing taxation, leading
to economic stagnation. Perhaps the most dystopian reality is that bureaucracy has weaponized morality itself. Governments and institutions now dictate what is acceptable speech, thought, and behavior, punishing dissenters with social ostracization or financial penalties. 6. Is there a way out? History suggests that bureaucracies only shrink after catastrophic collapse or major revolutions. However, some are hoping that we may be entering a new phase where technological advancements like artificial intelligence could challenge bureaucratic power. If AI and decentralized systems replace traditional administrative structures, we could see a breakdown of bureaucratic control. Alternatively, a return to decentralization, empowering local governance over global bureaucracies, could restore balance, but this will require a massive cultural shift away from reliance on the state. The question remains, can we stop the slow march toward total bureaucratic dominance before it's too late? Conclusion. For years, the idea that bureaucracy would enslave rather than serve civilization was written off as a right-wing conspiracy. Today, that so-called conspiracy is playing out before our very eyes. As more people wake up to the reality that unelected officials and centralized institutions now dictate global policy, the old narratives about bureaucracy being a necessary evil are starting to fall apart. But the real question is, will we challenge bureaucracy's unchecked power, or will we simply adapt to a world where everything is controlled by faceless administrators? The answer may determine the fate of our civilization. It's up to us, as citizens, to hold our government accountable. Transparency and oversight are not optional. They're essential to preserving the freedoms we hold dear. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. The UFOs. Since the dawn of the internet, stories of UFO sightings have captivated our imagination. Whispered accounts of unidentified flying objects, seen by the most credible witnesses of all, military pilots, have been shared for decades. These aren't just tales from backyard stargazers or science fiction enthusiasts. These are first-hand accounts from professionals trained to distinguish an aircraft from whatever else might be up there. For years, these stories were dismissed as hoax, overactive imaginations, or misunderstood natural phenomenon. But in recent years, a shocking revelation emerged. The United States government confirmed that these sightings are real. UFOs, or as the military now prefers to call them, UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, are not just a conspiracy theory anymore. The modern UFO phenomenon can be traced back to the mid-20th century, during the golden age of aviation. Air Force pilots were some of the first to report unexplained encounters. Take, for instance, the infamous sightings during World War II. Pilots described strange lights and objects, nicknamed Foo Fighters, that appeared to follow their planes. These mysterious entities moved in ways no known aircraft could replicate. Initially, many believed these objects were advanced enemy technology. But as the war ended and no evidence of such technology surfaced, the mystery only deepened. What were these objects? And more importantly, who or what was controlling them? After that, the Cold War saw a surge in UFO sightings, particularly by military personnel. With tensions high between superpowers, the skies were under constant surveillance. Radar operators, pilots, and even commanders reported unidentified objects that defied the laws of physics. These were not simple lights in the sky. They were craft performing maneuvers that no known human technology could achieve. Despite the growing number of reports, governments around the world, especially the United States, maintained a strict policy of denial. UFO sightings were labeled as weather balloons, atmospheric phenomena, or even mass hysteria. Yet behind closed doors, the military was taking these encounters very seriously. Military pilots often found themselves in chilling situations. Imagine flying at supersonic speeds, only to see an object dart past you at impossible angles, an object that doesn't appear on radar but is clearly visible to the naked eye. In December 2017, the floodgates opened. The New York Times published a groundbreaking article revealing the existence of a secret Pentagon program called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, dedicated to investigating UFO sightings. Luis Elizondo, a former intelligence officer who ran AATIP, blew the whistle. He confirmed that the program had collected evidence of unidentified craft that could outperform the most advanced aircraft in the world. But that wasn't all. Alongside the revelations came something even more shocking: video footage. These videos, captured by Navy pilots, show objects moving at hypersonic speeds, rotating midair, and accelerating in ways that defy physics. The pilots' voices in the recordings say it all: the shock, the confusion, and the sheer awe at what they were witnessing. In 2020 and 2021, the UFO phenomenon took another giant leap forward. The U.S. government not only admitted that these sightings were real, but also acknowledged that they could not explain them. For the first time, the Department of Defense officially released UFO footage and briefed Congress on the issue. Senator Marco Rubio, among others, stressed the importance of investigating these phenomena, not as a matter of science fiction, but as a potential national security threat. What if these objects are advanced technology from a foreign adversary? Or what if they're not from Earth at all? With the government's admission, the question isn't if UFOs exist, it's what they are. Theories range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some believe these are experimental aircraft from other nations, pushing the boundaries of aerospace technology. Others suggest they could be autonomous drones from a civilization far more advanced than ours. But how can we explain the behavior of these objects? They seem to show intelligent control, often responding to the movements of military jets. And what about their ability to disappear in an instant, as if slipping through dimensions? The admission by the U.S. government has sparked a global conversation. If UFOs are real, what does this mean for humanity? Are we alone in the universe? Or have we been observed, perhaps even visited, for decades or longer? The implications are staggering. From the potential for alien life to breakthroughs in technology, the discovery of what UFOs truly are could change everything we know about our place in the cosmos. So, what's next? The government continues to investigate UFO sightings through the newly established All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. But will we ever get the full truth? Or will it remain hidden under layers of bureaucracy and secrecy? One thing is certain: the story of UFOs is no longer confined to the realm of conspiracy theories. It's a legitimate, government-acknowledged mystery. And as we look to the skies, we can't help but wonder, are we witnessing the next chapter in the story of humanity?